Wedding bells are ringing for Kokoro and Mitsuru, and Ikuno decides to confess everything to Ichigo. You know what I'm talking about. Man, this episode of Darling in the Franxx was raw. It was cruel. The end of this episode legitimately made me angry at the entire ape organization. They are completely treating these children like livestock. They don't care about them at all. If something goes against their order, they're just going to freaking erase their memories, Men in Black style. This episode hurt emotionally, especially because the first half of the episode is so incredibly pleasant. Mitsuru and Kokoro are actually going to have a wedding, and all of the people who live in the garden are actually going to set it up, go old school with it. Futoshi's actually going to be the priest, which is absolutely hilarious and kind of sad. They have rings, they have flowers, they have the dress. I mean, they're going full-on wedding here. It's a really big, happy moment. It's a little ridiculous because, of course, Kokoro and Mitsuru have just started their relationship. It's kind of like watching a relationship blossom in a Disney movie, but it feels genuine here because it's something that they discovered themselves. They found love with one another, and you can actually find yourself getting behind it, and it gives you that nice, cuddly, old, warm feeling. That is until, in the back of your mind, you start to realize everything's too happy. Something bad is going to happen, isn't it? And it's probably going to happen to the bride and groom themselves. And of course, that does end up going down. Really though, this episode was certainly a yin and yang kind of thing. The first half being incredibly pleasant, the second half being very dark and very cold and frustrating. Then again, that's what Darling in the Franxx is all about. It takes your emotions and it completely just twists them into a knot, making you feel incredibly awkward the entire time, and doing it with some great anime style. So let's just go ahead and talk about some of the big elements of this episode. So like I said, the first half of the episode is all about Mitsuru and Kokoro getting ready for their wedding. It's going to be the last thing that they're actually going to do before they leave the garden. This is actually an order which is coming from the higher-ups. They're no longer going to live in this swanky little house. They're actually going to go back to the cold bird's nest, which sounds about as exciting as you could possibly expect. But they're going to have one last hurrah, and what they're going to do is they're going to throw a wedding for Mitsuru and Kokoro, who are being very vocal and very out there about their relationship. It's not a mystery to anyone. Everybody knows these two are hitting the sheets, and honestly, it's nice. I don't know what it is. It's just pleasant. You can tell that these two actually do love each other. It's the most, like, relaxed and happy I think we've ever seen Mitsuru throughout the entire series, which you can tell that this girl has truly had a huge effect on him, and really they do work together very well. And then we have the Ikuno scene. This is a big moment because you can tell that her emotions have been swirling because everybody's finally starting to display their affection for one another, and this is sort of like her last opportunity to do so. And she straight up just confesses to Ichigo. There's a scene where, like, they're almost gonna kiss. It almost happens. I was ready for it. I was waiting for it the whole time. Every time I was watching, I'm like, here it is. Here's the moment where the internet's gonna lose their shit. Here it is. Ikuno kissing Ichigo, and it never actually happens. The main reason it never really happens is because Ikuno is going through just so much crap in her head right now. While she certainly does love Ichigo, she also recognizes the reason why they have the male and female Franxx pilots. It's the only way that they're able to use these robots. It frustrates her greatly, but this is actually what also led to Ichigo being Ichigo herself. She knows that it's an integral part of her personality and she can't completely just ignore it altogether. This, with the fact that Ichigo's probably not into Ikuno altogether, leads to a tremendous amount of frustration for this character that honestly I cannot possibly imagine. However, this is an episode, this scene in particular, which I really do believe is going to resonate with a lot of viewers. And I'm glad that they finally brought it up, because that's something that a lot of people have talked about since the beginning of the series. One of the cornerstones of this series is based around heteronormative roles in order to pilot these giant robots. It was only a matter of time before they brought up something about same-sex relationships, and that's kind of what we're getting right here. And like I said, Ikuno, you can tell, is incredibly frustrated over all of this. But Ichigo, being the caring one that she is, still manages to console her, hugging her, embracing her, and accepting her for who she actually is. It's a surprisingly beautiful moment. And it's all a lead up to the big wedding scene, which at first is just perfect. Everybody's happy, they're all dressed up. Even Zero Two is dressed up in the normal uniforms that they usually have, and honestly, it really does work. And right at the end, as they're finally about to kiss one another, we get to see that all of these soldiers and the Nines group arrive, and this big, like, SWAT team just comes out of nowhere, and they end up taking forcibly Kokoro and Mitsuru away. All the other kids are also taken away to the bird's nest, which is basically going to be their new home, which is cold and sterile and boring and not very fun to look at, and of course basically means this is the end of the line for these characters. They are eventually reunited with Mitsuru and Kokoro. The only difference is their memories have been completely wiped. They don't even know who they are anymore. They don't recognize each other. They don't remember them having a wedding or a relationship with one another, and that is just cruel. That is wrong. After all of this, after having them build up this relationship and fall in love with one another, they make them forget each other. And that is just messed up. It comes across as soap opera-ish drama, but honestly it works really well in this series, which is ultimately all about relationships, sex, and emotions. And while the scene with the military coming in is very dire and bleak, it does lead to a surprisingly kick-ass action sequence of watching Zero Two fight against the Nines members. And this scene has some fantastic fighting choreography, to the point where I really hope we get to see more hand-to-hand style combat in the show, because in some ways it looks a lot better than the mecha combat. Really, it was just the cherry on top what is arguably a really great and emotional episode. Loved this scene. Not to mention a scene which I found incredibly disturbing as we get to see what's going on with Nana. Apparently she's locked up and still going through these weird little like memory withdrawal symptoms where she's constantly remembering when she was a pilot in the past. There's a scene where apparently her partner was killed, and I don't know if even she's going to be coming back at all. I feel a revolution coming on, though. That's really the big feeling I'm getting from all of this. These kids are not going to stand for this that much longer. They're finally going to have to find a way to break through, and if they do so, I really hope they're going to find a way to be able to reclaim Kokoro and Mitsuru's memories, because what they did to them is just wrong. So what's the rundown on this episode of Darling in the Franxx? Just, whew, what a swirling emotion kind of episode. Then again, that's kind of been the part of the course for the entire series, but this one was done with a lot of gusto as well. I also did like this one scene that was in the middle of the episode, which kind of just came out of nowhere and was there to just sort of break the tension when everything was so happy, where Zero Two was in her room when suddenly this dark portal opens up on the floor and all the dead soldiers she's been partnered with come zombieing their way out of the floor, dragging her into the darkness, only for her to be saved and brought back by Hiro. It was a weird moment, and clearly it was kind of a metaphor. I thought the scene was initially going to be an excuse to introduce the Klaxosaur princess to Zero Two, but they're really holding off on that quite a bit. I mean, really, the build-up to seeing that character is going to be great, and considering we're getting fairly close to the end of the series, I really hope the payoff is going to hit it home, unless, of course, they have bigger plans for Darling in the Franxx. For all we know, we could be just looking at a Season 1 here. This could be just the prologue to the actual story of Darling in the Franxx, and considering how explosively popular this show is right now, I think they might even be considering that, because there's a lot of mystery and whimsy to this world, which is still so untapped. And we're getting this much closer to the end, so I just really can't wait to see what this world is going to eventually transform into. But with the production value and the great storytelling, the good feel moments, and the really disturbing moments with the military coming in, this was another solid addition to the series, which is continuing to build upon itself, and it just feels like a powder keg which is going to explode at any minute. This was a great episode, is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, though. If any of you guys did watch the episode, please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the future of Darling in the Franxx. Let's start a discussion and see if we can get some theories going and just get some good conversations going about this show, because it's pretty freaking awesome. Thank you guys for watching this review. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not already. That way you'll be able to see a ton of the other anime reviews that I am currently working on, as well as some discussion videos, and even our podcast series, The Powerful Nerdcast, which has officially returned, so please make sure to check that out and share it with all your friends. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.